share this sadistic story about your production.
So like on the note of Aneesh saying that like nobody had any idea what this was going to turn into until they saw the final cut, including us. One of the ideas that we came up with early in the process of pre-production was, we didn't have a ton of money to make this movie. I mean, you guys have seen the movie. There's aerial shots, there's car stuff, there's lakes, there's extras, there's ravine stuff. We shot it in 13 days, and part of exactly, and part of that was that we had to really know what we were trying to make with the film. And of course, we're doing a kind of storytelling that hadn't really been done before. We came up with this idea to kind of bring our editors on board, and they started editing the film 7 weeks before we started.
They were the first people hired. Like before we hired anyone on production, we hired the editors, and we brought them in, and they were looking at an empty Premiere. Premiere is like the program that we use to edit, and like they're looking at an empty Premiere timeline, and it was just like get to work. And they literally just started screen capping the internet for 7 weeks, putting together the movie, as it were, just like a rough comp of the movie. And this other cut that it ended up at the end of 7 weeks being an hour and 40-minute cut of the movie, starring me playing every role: the mom, the daughter, the detective, all of the friends. Yeah, we're working on it. I'm hiding, but yeah.
I'm just kind of totally curious. Like, would you guys have any interest in seeing a version of that movie?
Yes.
I'm trying to make this battle to make sure he lets us put it on the DVD or something.
Yes. And also, so you said that casting kind of decided the family. So how important was it to present an Asian American family in like a big movie like this?
I mean, it was for us. I mean, we wrote the script as David Kim and the Kim family. So it was from the beginning we wanted to cast a Korean American family. But I grew up in the Bay Area, and my family, in San Jose, which is where the story takes place. And my family's both my parents are in the tech industry. Both of us come from minority backgrounds, and like for me growing up, it was just a matter of like, it wasn't like the stories about like race or culture that like for us that I always envied that I never saw myself in. It was mostly the stories that were like high school rom-coms or action movies or thrillers, and like those movies that had nothing to do with any of that, like I never saw myself in. And so when we first started writing this, it was like very important to us to A, do that, and B, like personally, just for me to cast a family that looked like the cast of characters that my parents would sort of work with or bring over for dinner. So yeah, it was a big fight from the beginning, because it wasn't like met with ease at any point from like anyone specific, or like just it's just a tough decision to do and get behind. But at the end of the day, the coolest thing about the movie is that it has nothing to do with that at all, and like that's why we wanted to fight for it.
It's just I have a question about your transition from Windows to
Yeah.
I think we all know the elephant in the room.
Everyone's thinking, here we go.
No, but I mean, so when you're making a movie that relies so much on whether it's a real kind of website or brand, or it has to look like it. And if you break, it's like there's so many movies where like the tech, they go on like Facebooks or whatever.
My face.
My face, yeah.
Face.
So you guys have to work with that. Was there any problem with this kind of nerdy finance question, but just like kind of getting the rights basically, or the permission to use
What's that? What
does it mean to get rights or permission?
There you go. So artistic.
I mean, we were always really sensitive in how we went about doing it. I mean, one thing you might notice, like ucast.com is made up, right?
It looks believable.
Yeah,
it's based on a real site called YouNow, which is a real thing.
But like, the idea is like in our movie, spoilers obviously for those that didn't see the movie, like she goes on that website and is catfish, like you mentioned, and like this, horrible things happen to her. So we wanted to make sure that didn't happen on Facebook or anybody that has a lot of lawyers.
We just made sure, we made sure that we at any point were using the internet in the way that it is meant to be used. Like, and Mike Seth was saying, if a bad character interacts with someone, make sure that they're interacting on a site that like is just made up. So that's why we introduced that and made up a site for UCast instead of using YouNow, which is what is in real life, is because that company could come back and be like, we don't have these people on our site, but as far as all the rights to everything goes, every single image that you see in the movie, except for brand logos, has been created by us. Every photo, everything. The rights, like getting the rights to everyone's photo, like the person who took the photo, the person who was in the photo, all the people in the photo, is just an absolute huge workload. And then
on that note, actually, can I say something?
Yeah.
So every photo is somebody that we know in our lives. And actually, one of those people is here today.
Oh, yeah.
My mom traveled with us to Chicago today. Mom, can you just stand up and take a quick
She's the piano teacher.
All my relatives keep asking my mom to teach them how to play piano now, but you know, it's fine. And you know, on the note though of you saying Windows to like Apple, I think Aneesh and I both made that migration.
Yeah.
But when we were trying to figure out like how to tell the story, like you mentioned, like on a computer screen, still have real actors, real performances. We had a huge revelation in which this app on Apple called FaceTime. That when you finish a phone call with somebody, the app stays open,
Yeah,
and it shows you what's on the other side of the camera.
We can
So
write
we
some
were like,
stuff.
cool, this is how we're gonna write this movie now. So thank you, Apple.
I think we're going to do questions, so if anybody wants to run to that microphone right over there. All right, first question.
Hello.
Were you ever tempted to cut away from the screen sharing style and go to a traditional narrative style for the film for any dramatic moments?
We thought about it, but yeah, we were like, at any point we were like, how the hell are we gonna write this? Let's just cut out. Yeah. No, yes, we were tempted by it, but at the same time, we thought it'd be way cooler if we could just pull this off and have it all be told on a screen. There's probably writing issues that we could have avoided that had we just cut out. But we were just like, no, this movie takes place on screens and on devices. Let's just stick to that and see if we can do something good.
And to give you a really specific answer, because I can tell you deserve it, we had a really hard time with like the third act. Like once we knew that like David knew who the bad guy was, what he had to do, it was so tempting to just see like a steady cam shot of him running out
Running to the car and just like,
like
chasing
and
this.
then we came up with the whole concept of like, the whole reveal of the ending. So like that to us was like the hardest challenge we had. The whole time we knew what the movie was going to be except for that third act.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Russ. I went to the menu. It's really good. I heard about it online, and I'm actually editing a short version of my feature-length film. So one of the things that cracked me up, one of your little blurbs, was you have a little news crawl that says, director is probably the prime suspect in killing a film editor.
Yep. Did anyone else catch that? Okay, so a few people got it. It actually says Hollywood producer prime suspect in a murder of film editors. There was a couple arguments that we had creatively in the edit room with the editors, and there was one particular one where it was like Seb between the editors, because there's two of them, and we basically, due to that argument, wrote a copy underneath the news ticker that said Hollywood producer in prime suspect in murder of two editors.
For the record, that editor is still alive.
They're both alive. Everyone's alive, yeah.
But really quickly, everybody saw that.
Yeah, there's a handful of people who saw it.
So my question is, one thing that I really like, because it's actually helping me with story issue I'm having, is the whole use of the fact you can go in, like if a family shares a computer, and you did it at the beginning where you click on it and it goes to the mom's profile, or it goes to the kid's profile, and then what I seem like the audience buys it, because I'm kind of playing around with that idea too, where you have different desktops or different sort of layers to a computer, and how it seems like the audience kind of just goes with it. You just, like you're testing and stuff, where you're testing those ideas of, and it worked to me that people follow that the computer switching from personality to personality.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was the intention.
We tried it, and then we did a lot of hey, did you guys know this was like Cam's computer? And sometimes people didn't, so we would kind of go make some more obvious changes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a good technique.
Hey guys, sorry I've never done a Q&A before.
It's our third
That
one,
was
so.
so good, I'm blown away. One question I have is that I noticed that you referenced unfriended and catfish, I guess. This is very challenging and non-traditional filmmaking. I don't know if there's any movies you used other than those two as some sort of reference point for how to tell your story, or visual ways to tell your story, because a lot of it is very non-narrative and a lot of it is very musically driven as well. So I didn't know if there was any other non-narrative films or any kind of narrative films that helped you just kind of create your vision for this? Like just a list of films, I guess, something we can watch when we get home.
Yeah. Well, so there's two references that we had. There's the visual references and then there's the story references. For us, it was always a matter of like taking this crazy visual concept and marrying it with hopefully a very classic story, a very, very simple story, and then putting those two together and hopefully it'll be something cool. On a visual standpoint, yeah, Unfriended, Google, a lot of the Google commercials, some of them that I got to make, were huge. I mean, like, we're just like, okay, this is how you do it. A lot of like lessons on how not to do these things when it came to computer stories. And then on a traditional example, every like missing child story, kidnap story, ransom story, there's so many iterations of that.
We took a lot of cues out also from like a podcast called Serial. If you guys ever watch that or like listen to that?
Yeah, Making a Murder.
Making a Murder for sure. Like I think we love the idea. Like early on, we kind of knew we wanted the movie to be really grounded and kind of represent a true life kind of crime. So we kind of studied a lot of that stuff.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Yeah, man.
So that was actually almost my question, but
Shit.
I guess relatedly, it seemed like there's a lot of scenes where people are looking into a camera and trying to tell a story, and it reminded me of certain kind of movies like the Blair Witch Project and Cloverfield and things like that. But can you just repeat like what you said you were doing at lunch? You were looking at a lot of different.
Yeah, so every day when we would be writing for several weeks, we would kind of line up a movie and we'd watch like Gone Girl over 3 days. Like, hey,
20 minutes actually.
20-minute lunches. That just like over a week, we'd watch 20 minutes of a movie during lunch and then just kind of discuss, hey, why did they choose that decision? Why did they make those decisions? We watched every movie that took place on a computer screen, which obviously they were like pioneers in a lot of ways, but there was probably more stuff we kind of found, hey, maybe we should not do that, for example.
Or things that we wanted to do.
Exactly. So like it was like that's it was a good process for us because like when you're writing, you're kind of working all day, you got to take a break. But we were kind of workaholics, so like even on our lunch, we're like, let's find a way to be productive.
This was Seth's idea. I would have just like laid down. All right, see you tomorrow, dude. And we learned a lot. Hello.
Hi. So I'm the mom of two very young kids. So first off, now I'm horrified thinking, what kind of like technology am I going to have to worry about 10 years from now? So thanks for that. But along those same lines, I have some friends who are parents of teenagers, and they have told me things about how they had to search their kids' browser files to see what they've been looking at and through YouTube. And so I'm curious as to, were there any things that you got maybe from friends or relatives that you didn't even think of to include in here, as far as the different kinds of screens or things, and I was also curious about the idea of maybe where some of the ideas came from, like when you had to kind of reset 2 different passwords to get the one, it is based on real life.
Yeah. So the real sites that we were like, whoa, that's crazy, is honestly the vlogging, the vlogging. I always say vlogging or vlogging, whatever, one of those. Vlog, yeah. When Margot's like doing that on UCAS, that when we discovered the website YouNow, I was like, dude, kids are actually doing this. It's insane. That's a totally real concept. Kids just like talking to the computer and they're like, do, and people are like commenting and all this. For hours. It's
like
just
5 hours.
Insane how popular these people have, millions of followers. And
I
stuff.
remember like it was you pitched it to me first because we knew that we wanted there to be like this diary.
Yeah, we needed like the treasure chest beat of like what is the big discovery diary.
And Aneesh was like, yo, there's this thing that these kids are doing, and I was like, nah, dude. A, that's not real. B, no one's gonna believe it's real.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years later, it was like Facebook Live, Instagram Live, like this was